Forbidden Love, The Choice of Kerri-Ann Clarke. An audio-friendly audiobook script, full feature film. Some choices are made the moment two people look at each other. The night we met. The city before the story begins. Miami in July smells like possibility and consequence in equal measure. The air is thick and warm and salt-edged, the kind of air that wraps itself around you when you step off an airplane or out of a car after a long drive, and something in your body recognizes it as a place where things happen. Where the rules of other cities apply a little less strictly. Where the night extends its hours beyond what the clock suggests, and the morning forgives everything by the time it arrives. It is a Friday. The sun finished its work hours ago, but left its heat behind like a calling card, pressed into the pavement and the walls of buildings and the hoods of parked cars that are still warm to the touch at 10 o'clock at night. The city is not winding down. The city is only now finding its stride. On Biscayne Boulevard, the lights of 100 restaurants and bars and music venues bleed into the wet surface of the street, where a rain shower passed through an hour before and left everything gleaming and reflective. Pink neon. Gold signage. The white flash of a phone screen held up in a passing rideshare. Every surface in Miami, on a night like this, holds a version of the light back at you, so that the city seems to be lit from below as much as above. The sounds are layered, the way sounds only are in cities that contain multitudes. In this city, on this night, two people are moving toward each other. They do not know this yet. They have not been told. The city knows. The city is already arranging things. This is a story about a woman who was not looking for love, and a man who had forgotten what it felt like to be truly seen. It is a story about what happens when the thing you did not know you needed arrives in a red dress on a Friday night and dances like it belongs to itself entirely. Pay attention. Everything that matters begins very quietly, and then all at once. The city humming, traffic, music, voices, rain-cooled air moving through palm trees. Kerri-Ann arrives at Rhythm and Soul. Her name is Kerri-Ann Clarke. She is 31 years old, and she grew up in a house in Liberty City where her mother played gospel on Sunday mornings and soca on Saturday nights, and Kerri-Ann absorbed both and became something in between. A woman with discipline in her spine and rhythm in everything else. She arrives at Rhythm and Soul Bar on Northwest 2nd Avenue at 10:15 on a Friday night wearing a red dress that she bought 3 years ago and never quite found the right occasion for until tonight, when she decided to stop waiting for the right occasion and simply wear the dress. Her hair is loose. Her heels are modest because she plans to dance, and she knows herself well enough to be practical about it. She is not dressed for anyone else. She is dressed for the version of herself she becomes when she is happy. Beside Kerri-Ann is her cousin Marcus. He is 34 years old and works in logistics and is absolutely, unconditionally, her person in the world. He is also loud in the specific way of men who love loudly and have decided there is no reason to be quieter about it. He says something in her ear about the crowd, and she laughs with her whole body, head tilted back, shoulders rising, the laugh that is only available on nights when she is genuinely let go. Several people look. She does not notice. That is one of the things about Kerri-Ann. She does not perform herself. She simply is herself, and the room responds without being asked to. She is also, if she is honest, still carrying the weight of a relationship that ended 8 months ago. Not heavily. She has done the work. She has talked to her friend Simone and her mother, and the journal on her nightstand. She has allowed herself the specific grief of it, and then stood up and made coffee and returned to the world. But a woman doesn't set down 8 months of someone easily. It sits in the muscles, the way old training does. She feels it sometimes as an absence she moves around, the way you move around furniture in a dark room. She is not thinking about this tonight. She came here specifically to not think about this. The Rhythm and Soul bar is amberlit and low-ceilinged and perfect. The bar is lined with rum bottles from 5 different islands. Jamaican flags hang above the shelf, alongside a faded photograph of a beach that no one can definitively identify, but everyone agrees feels like the right beach. The music comes from a DJ in the back corner who is deeply committed to his work, reading the room instinctively, knowing when to build, when to slow, and when to let the silence before the drop do all the talking. The crowd is everything that Miami is, every shade of beautiful, every accent, every way of moving through the world. People who have been here for generations and people who arrived last year and people passing through on their way to somewhere else. On a Friday night at Rhythm and Soul, all of them find the same rhythm. Jae-Hwan at the bar. At the far end of the bar, a man sits with a glass he has not touched. His name is Jae-Hwan. He is 32 years old, Korean-American, born in Atlanta and moved to Miami 8 years ago for a reason that made sense at the time and became his life before he fully agreed to it. He is a graphic novelist. His 3rd book was shortlisted for an industry award 2 years ago. His publisher is waiting on the 4th, and his drawing desk at home is covered in blank pages that have been blank for 6 weeks. He is, in the particular language of creative people, stuck. He prefers not to examine too closely what he is stuck on, because he suspects it is not the book. He has the face of a man who is thinking about something he will not say aloud. Not unhappy, precisely. More like someone who has been quietly removing himself from his own life for a while and is only now, tonight, beginning to notice the distance. He came here because his friend Daniel invited him and then canceled at the last minute, and he came anyway, which tells you something about the quality of his apartment this week. His whiskey glass sweats on the bar beside him. He ordered it 40 minutes ago. He has taken 2 sips. His phone lights up on the bar. He looks at the screen. The name, Min Jae. He holds his gaze on the name for a moment that is slightly too long to be casual. Then he declines the call. Sets the phone face down against the wood of the bar. The gesture is practiced. He does not fumble it, which means he has made it before. 3 years. That is the length of what the name represents. 3 years of a relationship that has always been more intentional than spontaneous, more functional than fervent. Min Jae is wonderful. That matters. She is organized and warm and successful, and she loves him in a consistent, dependable way that he has never fully deserved and has never been able to fully receive. He is not sure when he stopped being able to receive it. He has not examined this closely either. He watches the room from his end of the bar. Not searching. More like a man waiting for something to remind him why he is here, in this city, in this bar, in this life that he assembled carefully and then somehow stopped feeling inside of. He picks up his whiskey, puts it down again. Music rising, the bass pulsing, laughter weaving through the room. The first look. She moves onto the dance floor. He sees her from across the room. Time slows here. The way time actually slows in certain moments, not stopping, but stretching, like something warm being pulled between 2 hands, elongated into a duration that does not match the clock. He sees a woman in a red dress who is dancing without self-consciousness, which is to say, she is dancing the way most people only manage when they are completely alone. She is entirely inside the music. Her eyes are half closed. She moves with an ease that is not performance, but habit, the habit of a body that knows itself, that has been in relation to rhythm long enough to trust it completely. Something happens in Jae-Hwan that he will not be able to fully describe later, even to himself. It is not simply that she is beautiful, though she is. It is something more specific, the quality of her presence. The way she takes up exactly the right amount of space, not more, not less, precisely the amount that is hers. It has been a long time since he noticed that in a person. He is not sure he has ever noticed it precisely this way. A stillness moves through him. Not calm, more like the particular hush before something falls. The crowd around him continues in its noise and motion. He is very still at the center of it. He does not move toward her. He is not that man, the man who crosses a bar toward a woman simply because he wants to. He knows himself better than that. He knows also that he is not unattached, which is the more important thing. He picks up his whiskey glass for the first time in 20 minutes and holds it without drinking from it and watches the dance floor and thinks, with great clarity, I should look somewhere else now. He does not look somewhere else. He felt it. He knew, even in that moment, that feeling it was going to cost him something. He did not know yet how much. He set his glass down on the bar. Untouched again. The music shifting into something slower, the crowd adjusting its rhythm. The collision. She moves through the crowd toward the bar. It happens in an unremarkable way, and at the same time in no way unremarkable at all. The crowd shifts. Someone steps left. Someone else steps into that space. The geometry of a crowded bar rearranges itself as crowds always do, without consultation, without plan, and in the rearrangement, Kerri-Ann stumbles, just slightly, just the smallest loss of footing. And her hand reaches out by instinct and finds the nearest solid thing, which is his arm. And his hand moves to her elbow at the same moment, by the same instinct, steadying her before he has decided to. They look at each other. This is the moment everything has been moving toward. Not dramatic. Not scored with swelling music or slow motion. Just two people looking at each other for a second longer than the situation requires. Just an electric beat of mutual recognition, the specific recognition of someone who is the same species of person you are, in a way you cannot immediately explain. Just both of them aware, simultaneously, that they are still holding on a moment after the stumble has been corrected. She says thank you. He says of course. Her hand leaves his arm. His hand leaves her elbow. They stand approximately 18 inches apart, and the crowd moves around them as though they are a fixed point in the room. Later, not to each other, not for a long time, but later, they will both independently describe this moment as the one. Not the dance. Not the alley. This one. The collision and the steadying and the look. The moment before either of them spoke. Some things are decided before anyone has agreed to decide them. The music continuing, softer now beneath this beat. The dance. He asks without words. A slight turn of his hand, an offered space, a question in the angle of his body. She almost refuses. Stay with the almost. It is a long almost, longer than it looks from the outside, where it looks like barely a second. Inside Kerri-Ann's mind, it is a proper deliberation. She has a policy, arrived at after careful post-experience analysis, about dancing with men she has just met in bars. The policy is no. The policy exists for good reason. The policy has served her. Tonight, the policy presents itself. She examines it. Then she looks at him, at his face, at the particular quality of the question in it, which is only a question. No pressure. No expectation. Easily deflectable. And something in her that she will later refuse to name makes a small, clean decision. She accepts. On the dance floor, the song is a slow dance hall rhythm with a minor key melody underneath it, the kind of song that moves like deep water, not rushing anywhere, content to be what it is, pulling gently at everything it touches. The DJ knows what he is doing. He always knows what he is doing. They begin with appropriate distance. Proper. Both of them aware of themselves, aware of each other, maintaining the careful geometry of two strangers who are choosing to be in proximity. This early phase of the dance is formal, almost, like two people learning the shape of a room before they walk through it in the dark. But music is patient. And they are both people who know how to listen to music, which means they cannot sustain the formality for very long. The rhythm is not interested in formality. It is interested only in what is true. Somewhere in the second minute of the song, the distance closes. Not suddenly, gradually, the way tides move, the way temperatures change, the way people who are drawn to each other always eventually stop pretending they are not. His hand at the small of her back. Her hand at his shoulder. The space between them warm and close. No over-explaining is needed. They fit. The way two things fit when they were made from the same materials in different shapes. She is aware of his hand at her back with a precision that she does not allow herself to examine. She feels it the way you feel the specific warmth of sunlight through a window, the way you feel the weight of a blanket in winter, not dramatically, but with the whole surface of your attention. She decides to feel it and do nothing with it. That is its own kind of discipline. A woman choosing to experience something fully while simultaneously choosing not to act on it. It requires more strength than not feeling it at all. When the song ends, they step back from each other. Not because they want to. Because the music stopped, and without the music, the proximity requires an explanation neither of them has prepared. They stand looking at each other. Both of them still. Something has begun. Neither of them has agreed to it. It has begun anyway. The song fading, crowd noise returning, the DJ beginning the next track. The bathroom mirror. She excuses herself. The women's bathroom at Rhythm and Soul is small and warm and smells of someone's expensive perfume, someone else's coconut oil, a rum cocktail that was set on the sink ledge and forgotten. The particular closeness of a small hot room where many people have been. The single bulb above the mirror is amber, forgiving. The mirror is slightly spotted at its lower corners. It is not a romantic setting. It is, however, private. It is the only private space in the building, and Kerri-Ann Clarke needs 30 seconds of private. She stands at the sink and runs cold water over the inside of her wrists. An old habit, her mother taught her this when she was 14 and overwhelmed by something she couldn't name. Cold water on the pulse points. It works. She does not know if it works for reasons that are physiological or simply because it is a ritual and rituals work because you believe them, and she believes this one. She looks at herself in the mirror. She tells herself the usual things. The sensible things. She does not know this man. She danced with him once in a crowded bar. She came here for air, not to feel things about strangers. She is a grown woman with 42 students who depend on her to be clear-headed and present, with a mother who has never stopped worrying about her, with a life she has built carefully, and with intention out of materials that were not always easy to come by. She is not available for whatever her nervous system is apparently suggesting. Her reflection listens. Her reflection is not entirely convinced. She dries her hands on a paper towel. Straightens the collar of her red dress, looks herself in the eye for one more moment with an expression that is equal parts resolve and knowing. Then she goes back out. The crowd noise swelling as the door opens. The alley conversation. The side door of Rhythm and Soul opens onto a narrow alley between the bar and the restaurant next door. It is not a scenic alley. There is a dumpster. There is a cat on the dumpster who has the demeanor of someone who owns the property and merely tolerates the humans. There is a planter with a jasmine vine in it that someone placed on a staircase landing above, impractical, beautiful, entirely Miami. And the jasmine opens at night, and its scent reaches down into the alley with a sweetness that contradicts everything else about the setting. It is 10 degrees cooler out here than inside. This is still very warm. The bass from inside is audible through the wall, muffled, like a heartbeat heard through a door. She came out for air. She did not come out with any plan beyond air. He came out because he followed her. Plainly, he followed her, the way iron follows a magnet, not rushing, not calculating, simply pulled by a force he didn't consult before obeying. They stand in the alley, and there is the moment of registering each other's presence. Surprise on her side, something like apology on his, followed quickly by the realization that neither of them is unhappy about the coincidence. And then the moment resolves into something simpler. Two people standing in a warm alley in the Miami night, and one of them says something, and the other responds, and a conversation begins. The conversation is not quoted so much as felt. Its temperature changes quickly, moving from cautious to easy faster than either of them planned. Conversations do this when two people discover that they think about things the same way, that they use the same compass, even if the maps of their lives look different. She told him about her work. Not the polished version, the real version. The children who arrive on Monday mornings carrying things no child should carry, and the way she knows that putting a paintbrush in a hand and saying make something is sometimes the most important thing she can do all week. The belief she has held since she was 19 and a teacher gave her a canvas and changed the direction of her life, that making something beautiful is the same as believing you are worth beauty. That teaching a child to make art is teaching a child to value themselves. She said this without embarrassment. She is not embarrassed by her convictions. This is a rare quality, and he recognizes it as one. He told her about his work. The graphic novels, stories told entirely in pictures, in the silences between images, in the expressions people make when they are trying not to feel the thing they are feeling. He told her that he chose the medium because words had always felt to him like a translation of something that was already whole in his mind before language touched it, and images let him go directly to the source. He told her about the character he has been drawing since he was 16, a boy who moves through a world that doesn't quite make room for him and builds one inside himself that does. He said this, and then was quiet for a moment, as though surprised by how much he had said, and she looked at him with an attention that did not try to fix or resolve what he'd offered, just held it. Two artists in an alley. Two people who had spent their lives finding ways to make internal things visible. The particular recognition of that. The silences between their sentences were comfortable. Not the silence of people who have run out of things to say, the silence of people who feel no need to fill every space with noise. That is a rarer thing than it sounds. She noticed it. She filed it in the place where she keeps things she does not intend to examine immediately but knows she will return to. Above them, Miami expanded in every direction. The sky that night was a deep navy. Not quite dark, cities never let their skies go fully dark, and a half-moon sat in it without ceremony, and the air smelled of jasmine and exhaust, and the ocean, always somewhere in the distance in Miami. Always pressing gently eastward. They talked for 45 minutes. It felt like 12. The weight of a name. His phone glowed in his jacket pocket while they were talking. He felt it vibrate once, twice, the double pulse of a call. He did not reach for it. Her name is Min-jae. Min-jae is 29 years old. She is a brand strategist at a firm in Brickell, good at her work, beloved by her colleagues, a woman who moves through the world with a composure that looks effortless because she has spent years making it so. She has been with Jae-Hwan for 3 years. They share an apartment that they chose together, furniture they debated, a future that has been discussed in the careful, organized way of two people who like each other and respect each other and have decided that is the correct foundation. Her family likes him. His mother approved of her, which is not a small thing. There are people in both their lives who are already thinking about dates. She is not here in this alley. She is at home, probably. In the apartment they chose together, probably. Wondering where he is, possibly. Calling him now, definitely. He did not reach for the phone. Kerri-Ann Clarke, standing in a warm Miami alley, knows nothing about any of this. She does not know his name has another name attached to it. She does not know that the man she has been talking to for 45 minutes in the dark has a phone in his pocket full of a life she has not been told about. This is not said to indict him, not yet. It is said because the story requires honesty, and honesty requires placing the complicated things beside the easy ones. The distant music from inside, the cat shifting on the dumpster, the city. Marcus intervenes. Marcus finds them. He comes through the side door with the specific energy of a man who has been inside looking for his cousin and has found her outside standing close to a stranger in an alley, and this situation requires his full attention and possibly his crossed arms. He is 6'1" and built like someone who takes his gym membership seriously, and he deploys his presence with great intention at this moment, positioning himself in the narrow triangle between Kerri-Ann and Jae-Hwan in a way that is comic, but also not entirely not a warning. He looks at Jae-Hwan. He looks at Kerri-Ann. He looks back at Jae-Hwan. What follows is an interrogation. Not aggressive, theatrical. Marcus at his most theatrical is both exhausting and deeply loving, and his cousins have long since learned to read which one is operating underneath the performance. He asks Jae-Hwan questions. Where is he from? What does he do? Does he have people here? Is that his car outside? Does his mother know where he is tonight? Jae-Hwan answers with a patience and dry humor that Kerri-Ann did not predict, and that secretly impresses her, which she will not admit for some time. He does not get ruffled. He meets Marcus on his own terms, which is the only thing Marcus respects. Kerri-Ann is mortified. She communicates this mortification to Marcus in the specific silent language they have been developing since they were children playing in their grandmother's yard in Opelika, a language composed entirely of eye expressions and the angle of one's eyebrows. Marcus receives this communication and decides he does not care because he loves her, and this is how he shows it. Numbers are exchanged. Jae-Hwan types her name into his phone with care, one letter at a time, like it matters that he gets it right. She saves his number under a name she chooses in the moment and will keep for the foreseeable future. Marcus observes this transaction with the expression of a man who disapproves, but has decided his disapproval is insufficient to stop the proceedings. They say goodnight. Jae-Hwan holds her gaze for a moment longer than a casual goodbye requires. She holds it back. Marcus's commentary continuing as they go back inside. Driving home. The car is a silver Honda that Kerri-Ann has had for 6 years and refused to replace despite Marcus's very vocal opinions on the subject. It smells of art supply dust and the vanilla air freshener on the rearview mirror and, faintly, her mother's cooking from the leftover container she transported last Sunday. Marcus is in the passenger seat before she has fully processed the concept of leaving. He is talking before his seatbelt is fastened. He does not stop talking. He is talking about the bar, the music, the woman at the bar who he spoke to briefly and found impressive, the drive home, the potential for a late-night snack, and also woven throughout all of this, with great subtlety, which is to say no subtlety at all. Jae-Hwan and what Marcus thought of him, and what Marcus noticed about the way Kerri-Ann stood in that alley, and what Marcus is choosing, generously, not to say directly. Kerri-Ann drives. The Miami night unscrolls through the windshield, the causeways lit against dark water, the palms lining the boulevard standing dark and still in the warm air. An intersection where someone has placed a shopping cart in the middle of the turning lane for reasons no one will ever know. She is not listening to Marcus. She is listening to him the way you listen to a radio when you are thinking about something else, catching the rhythm of it, letting it be background, not quite there. She is replaying the alley. Not analyzing, she is specifically refusing to analyze. But the replay happens anyway, the way certain things do, below the level of decision. His voice, the way he listened, the specific patience of the man. She is trying not to smile. She is not succeeding. Marcus stops mid-sentence. He has seen it, of course he has, he always sees it, seeing things is his gift. He says nothing. He reaches over and turns the radio up. The song is something warm and good and exactly right for driving home from a Friday night in Miami when something has happened that you're not ready to name yet. That is how Marcus loves, loudly in every situation and softly in the exact moment when softness is the right answer. She drives. She smiles. She tells herself she will think about this tomorrow, and she already knows that tomorrow has arrived. Music on the car radio, the engine, the night. The other side of the night. The apartment is on the 14th floor of a building in Edgewater, all glass and clean lines and a view of the bay that cost enough to matter, and that he has stopped seeing the way people stop seeing things they look at every day. He lets himself in at 12:47. Quietly, the way he always comes home late, shoes off at the door. He's set down without the jangle. Min-jae is asleep on the couch. She fell asleep waiting for him, in the specific position of someone who intended to stay awake, still dressed, a book open face down on her chest, a reading lamp on beside her, the television on low with something she wasn't watching. She does this. She has done this since their first year together. She says she doesn't wait up for him, and then she waits up for him and falls asleep in the attempt, and he always finds her this way. And it is one of the things that he has loved about her without ever telling her how precisely he loves it. He looks at her for a long moment. In sleep, her face is different. The careful competence she wears in her waking hours relaxes, and she looks younger. Closer to the version of herself he met 5 years ago at a party where he knew no one, and she came and talked to him by the window because she noticed he was standing by himself, and she was, even then, someone who noticed that kind of thing. He covers her with a throw from the armchair. He turns off the reading lamp. He goes to the kitchen. He does not turn on the kitchen light. He stands in the dark of his own kitchen, and the city lights from the window are sufficient. The bay below, the buildings across the water, the low glow of everything, never full dark in Miami. In the dark, he is accounting. He is adding up something he has been refusing to calculate for months, and tonight the numbers have shifted. The sum is coming in differently than he expected, and he does not know yet what to do with the result. He did not do anything wrong tonight. Be precise about this. He danced with a woman at a bar. He talked to her in an alley. He exchanged numbers. Nothing that would constitute an accusation. And yet he is standing in his dark kitchen at 12:50 in the morning, and his hand is resting on the counter beside his phone, and his phone is face down, and he is not sure he would turn it over if he could. He stays in the kitchen for a long time. The city hums outside the window. Min-jae sleeps in the other room. He stands between them, in the dark, with the sum he cannot yet fully read. The low hum of the city at night, silence inside the apartment. The morning after. Her kitchen is the kitchen of a woman who lives fully and organizes selectively. The corkboard beside the refrigerator holds a rotating exhibit, student drawings, a postcard from Simone who visited Havana last spring, a phone number written on a receipt for someone whose name she can't remember, but the number has not seemed safe to discard, her mother's prayer card in a plastic sleeve, a photograph of herself and Marcus and their grandmother at the grandmother's 80th birthday. All three of them laughing at something that happened just before the photo was taken and cannot be recovered now. A shelf of art books with broken spines. A jar of brushes by the window, old ones, kept for sentiment. The window above the sink faces east, and in the morning the light comes through it like something purposeful, like it has a destination. She is at this window at 7:15 on Saturday morning with her first coffee of the day, watching the street wake up below her. The sanitation truck making its patient rounds. The woman from 4B who runs every morning without exception, her ponytail precise, her expression one of total internal focus. A dog being walked by a man who is less awake than the dog. 2 pigeons conducting negotiations on a mailbox. The first school bus of the summer session turning the corner and proceeding. She did not sleep much. Not badly, just not much. Her mind had things it wanted to do. She is replaying the night without meaning to. She told herself this morning when she woke that she would not do this, and here she is, doing it with the full compliance of her entire brain. She is replaying in fragments, which is how her mind processes things it hasn't sorted yet. His face in the amber light of the bar. The specific weight and warmth of his hand at her back during the dance. The quality of his attention in the alley, the way he listened, not waiting for his turn to speak, actually listening, actually there. The way he said her name when Marcus told him what it was, Kerri-Ann. Not abbreviated, not rushed. Like a word worth saying completely. She is doing what she told herself she would not do. She is aware of this and continues anyway because this is how she actually is, underneath the discipline, curious and fully present to the things that arrive in her life, even the things she wasn't planning for. She finishes her coffee, washes the mug, stands at the window one more moment. Then she gets dressed, picks up her tote bag and her keys, and goes to work. She does not look at her phone. She is very deliberate about this. She checks it in the elevator. There is no message. She tells herself this is fine. She tells herself she did not expect one. She is a complicated and honest enough person to recognize that both of these statements are partially true. Sound cue. The city morning, birds, a distant horn, the elevator descending. What we keep hidden. The days that follow have a particular quality. Ordinary on the surface, she teaches her classes, he draws his pages, the city goes about its business, and trembling underneath. Both of them aware of a specific weight that they are choosing, repeatedly and deliberately, not to pick up. This is the architecture of restraint. And like all architecture, it requires constant maintenance. The moment you stop paying attention to the structure, it begins to shift. He texts her first. On Sunday. A message that is short and careful, the message of a man who composed 7 longer versions and deleted them all and sent this one because at least it is honest in its brevity. She reads it 3 times before she responds. Her response takes 12 minutes, which is 9 minutes longer than it needed to and 3 minutes shorter than she originally planned to wait. Because she kept picking up the phone and putting it down, and finally the 11-minute mark arrived, and she decided that 12 was close enough to respectable. This is how it begins. Not with a declaration. With a question that sounds like something else. With 2 people finding each other's voices in the space between what they mean and what they'll say. The text thread. Over the following 2 weeks, the text thread between them is less a record of words than a change in temperature, polite becoming personal faster than either of them designed. He asked about her students. She told him about a boy named Devin who had spent 3 weeks refusing to pick up a paintbrush and then one afternoon painted something so raw and true that she had to step into the supply closet for 5 minutes to get herself together before she could respond to it. He said, "That is exactly why you do it." She said, "Yes." There was a quiet beat in the exchange, the silence of 2 people who have just said something real to each other and are deciding whether to keep going. They kept going. She asked about his graphic novel. He told her about the project, the science fiction story, the colony on a distant planet, the deadline, and the 6 weeks of blank pages. She asked him what was blocking it. He did not answer for a while. When he did, he said, "I think I've been drawing a story I've already moved past, and I haven't admitted that to myself yet." She read this message on her lunch break, sitting on the back steps of the arts center with a sandwich she had forgotten to eat. She sat there with his words and the uneaten sandwich for longer than her lunch break technically allowed. The messages got longer. The hours between them got shorter. There was a day when she caught herself reaching for her phone between sentences of an email to a grant committee, which had never happened before with anyone. And she set the phone down on the other side of the table and finished the email, and then immediately picked the phone back up. She mentioned this to no one. He mentioned it to no one. This is how it often begins, in private, in the space before it has a name, in the particular tenderness of something that is still only yours. The soft sound of a phone notification, recurring at irregular intervals. Jae-Hwan draws. His studio at 11 o'clock on a Wednesday night. The studio is a converted second bedroom that has accumulated itself over 8 years into the specific environment of a man who thinks visually, reference books stacked by size on the shelves, A corkboard covering most of one wall with story thumbnails pinned in sequence, color swatches taped beside their corresponding panels. A window that faces west and catches the evening light in a way that is very good for natural illumination and completely useless at night, which is when he does most of his real work. The smell is ink and paper and the particular brand of dark roast coffee he drinks in the evenings despite knowing better, from a thermos that Minjae gave him 2 birthdays ago with his initials on it. He is supposed to be working on Chapter 7 of his current series. His publisher has been patient. His publisher will not be patient indefinitely. Chapter 7 has been open on his desk for 3 weeks. He sits. He opens to a blank page. He holds his pencil. He waits for the colony to arrive, the distant planet, the characters he has been living with for 2 years, the story that felt urgent when he started it and has felt increasingly like something he is watching from a distance. His hand begins to move. It is not the colony. He is drawing hands. A woman's hands, specifically the particular architecture of fingers slightly spread, the way a palm looks when it is open rather than closed, the specific crease at the base of each finger. He is drawing them from memory, the memory of a hand reaching out to catch an arm in a crowded bar, not quite landing before he moved to help. He stares at the drawing. He draws it again. A 3rd time. Slightly different angle. The same hands, the same quality of openness in them. He sets the pages face down beside his desk. All 3 of them. He opens to a fresh page. He holds his pencil over the blank surface and steadies himself. He tries the colony again. He draws 3 panels of a spaceship corridor, and then his pencil drifts and he is drawing a face. He stops. He holds the pencil in the air above the paper for a long moment. Then he puts the pencil down. He picks up his phone. He puts his phone down. He puts the coffee thermos away. He turns off the studio light and goes to bed. In the morning, the face is still there on the page. He does not throw it away. The scratch of a pencil, distant traffic, the apartment settling at night. Kerri-Ann teaches portraiture. The following Thursday, first afternoon session. Her classroom in full operation is one of the best things about her life. She knows this. She does not take it for granted. The room is long and bright, the tables covered in newsprint that has been covered in paint and cleaned and covered again in paint until the tables themselves have become a kind of palimpsest. Every class, every project, every attempt still present in the grain of the wood beneath. The walls are full. Student work at every level of development, pinned without hierarchy. A watercolor beside an oil pastel beside a charcoal study beside a marker drawing that is technically imprecise and emotionally exact. This is what she teaches them. Technique serves expression, not the other way around. Today they are doing portraits. Pencil on good paper. She has her 12 Thursday students arranged in pairs, drawing each other, and the room has the specific quality of focused human attention. 12 people looking carefully at 12 other people, trying to translate what they see into what a pencil can say. She moves through the room. She crouches beside a girl named Yolanda who is drawing her partner's nose with great seriousness. She says something specific and useful about the nose. She moves to 2 boys who are drawing each other with competitive intensity, which is not what she asked for but is its own kind of engagement. She corrects gently. She compliments genuinely. Then she stops at the front of the room and faces them all, because there is something she wants to say before the session ends. She begins to talk about what makes portraiture difficult, not the technical challenges, but the deeper one. You have to see the face in front of you, not the face you've decided is there. The face you've decided is there as a composite, memory, expectation, desire, history. The actual face is always slightly different from the one you've assembled in your mind. A great portrait requires you to set down what you think you know and look at what is actually present. She stops. The class waits. 12 faces look at her. She is looking at the window. at the afternoon light coming through it. She is somewhere else for a moment, not named, but felt. The class senses it too, the specific quality of a teacher arriving at the edge of something personal and deciding in real time whether to cross it. She does not cross it. She moves on. She says, "That is what we are practicing today." Seeing what is actually there. The class returns to its drawing. But two of her students, the ones who pay attention to things like this, the ones who will carry it, remember later that she stopped. They remember what she said about the face you've decided is there. Some things a teacher says land immediately. Other things take years. The scratch of pencils on paper, the ambient quiet of concentration. The O family dinner. Sunday evening. The O family home in Coral Gables. It is the kind of house that has been settled into over decades, not unchanging, but stabilized, each object in it occupying the position that was decided for it years ago and occupying it with the confidence of something that knows its own purpose. The dining room table seats 10. Tonight it seats 6, which means the table is properly populated by the standards of the house, and Sumino, who set this table, who always sets this table, who has been setting this table for 30 years, considers 6 to be a modest gathering. Sumin is 61 years old and commands a room through the specific authority of a woman who decided long ago that she would not be overlooked and has not been. She is precise in her affections. She loves her children with a ferocity that expresses itself as expectation, which is the only language available to her for feelings this large. She is also a woman who has sacrificed things she never named and loves people who may never fully know the size of what she gave them. She is not simple. She has never been simple. The food she has made is elaborate and specific. The dishes represent weeks of her childhood in Seoul and decades of her life in Miami, and the particular negotiations between those two places that happen on a kitchen counter when a woman cooks the things her mother taught her in a country that grows different ingredients. Every dish means something. Jae-Hwan has never not known this. He is at the table. His body is at the table. His father, his sister Yuna, Min-jae, his parents, friends the Kims, they are all at the table, talking, eating, the conversation moving in the way of families who have had 1,000 versions of this same dinner. His sister Yuna sits across from him. She is 28 and has always been the sharper observer of the two of them, not more intelligent, differently intelligent, in the specific direction of people. She notices things that happen in faces. She has been noticing things in her brother's face for the past 3 weeks and has not yet decided what to do about what she's seeing. Min-jae arrives 20 minutes late. She texts ahead. She always texts ahead. She enters the room with her specific grace, the apology smooth and warm, the kiss she gives Sumin's cheek genuine, the way she folds herself into the conversation already in progress like a woman who belongs in rooms and knows it. Sumin receives her with real warmth. They talk about the upcoming holidays. They talk about a restaurant that just opened that both families want to try. They talk about the future in the easy, ambient way that people talk about futures they have already agreed on. Jae-Hwan watches Min-jae talk to his mother. He watches the two women he cares about most navigate each other with the fluency they've built over 3 years, and something in his face, small, controlled, but visible to someone who is looking, does not quite match the scene he is watching. Yuna is looking. She files it. She says nothing. She passes him the rice. Sounds of a family dinner, overlapping voices, serving spoons, laughter. Yuna in the kitchen. After dinner, clearing plates, the kitchen. The comfortable domestic aftermath of a family meal, the stacking and the rinsing and the packaging of leftovers in the specific containers his mother has used for this purpose since 1994. Yuna hands him a dish. He takes it. She hands him another. He takes it. This is the rhythm of siblings in a kitchen. The choreography that doesn't require instruction. And then she stops handing him dishes and she looks at him instead. She asks what is going on with him. Not dramatically. not accusingly. In the tone of a sister who knows her brother well enough to know that the question doesn't need embellishment to land. He is quiet for long enough that the quiet is its own answer. He tells her he met someone, a woman, at a bar a few weeks ago. Nothing happened, he says. He says it again. Nothing happened. He says it a third time, in a slightly different arrangement of words, and this is the moment that Yuna understands everything she needs to understand about the situation. She takes the dish from his hand. She looks at him in the way that only a sibling can look at you, with the full knowledge of who you were before you were whoever you've decided to be, and then she says the one thing she will say about all of this, said quietly, not unkindly. With the precision of someone who has chosen the fewest possible words for the largest possible truth. You don't go quiet for just once. She takes the plates back out to the dining room. The door swings shut behind her. He stands in the kitchen alone, with the hot water running over his hands, and the door swinging to a stop, and his sister's words in the air. The running water, the dinner party continuing in the next room. Min-jae at her desk. Give Min-jae the room she deserves. Her office at the firm, a Tuesday afternoon 3 weeks after Rhythm and Soul. The office is hers in the way things are hers, organized, aesthetically considered, functional without being cold. A small print on the wall that she chose herself. The desk clear except for what is currently in use. Her coffee in a ceramic mug, not a paper cup, because she decided years ago that this was a small thing worth getting right. She works. She is good at her work in the way that comes from genuine interest combined with genuine discipline, which is the only combination that produces actual excellence over time. She has been doing this work for 6 years. She is, by every external measure, exactly where she intended to be. She stops working. Not dramatically. She doesn't push back from her desk or put her head in her hands. She simply stops typing and sits for a moment with her hands in her lap and looks at the screen without seeing it. She does this for perhaps 45 seconds. Then she picks up her mug, drinks, sets it down. Name what she is feeling with care. It is not suspicion exactly. It is not jealousy exactly. It is more like a change in atmospheric pressure, the way the air thickens and stills before a storm, when the birds stop singing and the leaves turn and the sky takes on a quality of density that is not threatening yet, but announces something is coming. She has been feeling this for weeks. A change in the pressure of her daily life. A new quality to his silences, which have always been many. He is a quiet man by nature. She knew this when she chose him, but are now a different shape. Longer at their edges. More interior. She cannot name it precisely. She does not investigate. Min-jae is not a woman who goes looking for things she is not ready to find. She believes in letting truth make its own way to her in its own time. This is a philosophy that has served her in some situations and cost her in others. She goes back to work. She is very good at going back to work. Do not pity Min-jae. Hold her with both hands, steady and clear, because her story is not a footnote. Her pain, when it arrives, will not be a footnote. She deserves full attention. She will get it. The ambient sound of an office, keyboards, a distant phone. The cafe. A Saturday morning for weeks after they met. The cafe is on a terrace on Miracle Mile, outdoor seating, wrought iron chairs that have been painted and repainted until the paint is thick at their joints, bougainvillea growing up the wall beside the entrance in magenta riotous abundance. A waiter who refills water glasses with suspicious frequency and appears to have nothing else to do, which is not quite true, but which suggests he has found this particular table more interesting than his other tables this morning. They have been here for 2 hours and 20 minutes. They came at 10. They have each had 2 coffees. The coffees are finished. Neither of them has suggested leaving. The conversation has moved through its territories the way a river moves through landscape, unhurried, taking the shape of whatever it passes through, and the territory of their conversation is rich and varied, and neither of them is in a hurry to reach the end of it. They have talked about their families, not deeply yet, but the edges of it. She mentioned her mother with the warmth of someone for whom family is not complicated in its love, only in its proximity. He mentioned his family with the warmth of someone for whom love is real and expectation is also real, and the two of these things exist in the same room, and sometimes the room gets crowded. He shows her his sketchbook. He does this with more ease than he expected. The sketchbook is a record of the past year, thumbnail sequences for the graphic novel, studies of faces and hands and architecture, some pages that are just color, washes of color for no reason except that he needed to make something, and this was what came. She turns the pages with great care, her hands attentive and unhurried. The way a person handles something they understand is important to someone else. She turns a page and stops. The drawing is her face. Not the whole face, the eyes, the particular angle from three-quarters view, the curve of jaw and the beginning of the mouth, left unfinished. Unmistakably her, even unfinished. Especially unfinished, because unfinished means he stopped in the middle, which means he started without deciding to. She looks at it for a long time. Then she looks up at him. He meets her gaze. He does not explain. He does not reach for the sketchbook. He sits in the clear, steady light of a Saturday morning in Miami and allows himself to be completely known in this specific way, which is the only way he has ever known how to be known, in pictures. She turns to the next page. She says nothing. He says nothing. The waiter comes and refills the water. Something has been acknowledged without being named. This is sometimes the most honest acknowledgement available. Sometimes naming a thing too soon is less honest than letting it exist in the space before its name. They both know this. They sit with what they know. The bougainvillea moves in a small wind. The cafe continues around them. They stay until noon. Cafe ambient sound, conversation, distant traffic, a small wind. The rooftop, first time. The rooftop bar is on the 22nd floor of a building in downtown Miami, and on a clear evening in August it offers the kind of view that makes you feel both very small and very precisely located, like you understand exactly where you are in the world. And the world is large and lit and interesting. This evening is clear. Miami below them extends in every direction, glittering. The bay to the east, dark and reflective, catching the city lights in long trembling strips. To the west, the highway moves its stream of white and red light against the blue-hour sky. The air up here is marginally cooler. The wind off the water reaches this height, touches the face, offers the illusion of relief. They're at the corner of the rooftop, at a table against the railing. They have wine, which neither of them is drinking quickly. They have been talking for an hour and a half. The conversation tonight has a different quality from the cafe. From the texts, it has moved closer to the center of things, the way conversations do when two people have decided, without explicitly deciding, that they are past the periphery. He has been building toward something all evening, approaching a difficult sentence, circling it, finding the entrance. He sets down his wine glass. He looks at the city below. He begins to speak. His phone lights up on the table between them. The name is face up. It reads clearly in the evening light. Min-jae. What happens in Kerri-Ann's face is not dramatic. It is precise, a micro-expression of reception, the kind that passes through a person's features when they receive information they were not prepared for, very briefly, before composure reinstates itself. 2 seconds, if that. And then she is still and her face is settled and she says, "Is that your girlfriend?" It is not a question. It is a person confirming something they have suspected and chosen not to pursue until now. He picks up the phone. He looks at the screen. He sets it down without answering. And then, because he is fundamentally an honest man, and dishonesty of this particular kind is not available to him, he tells her. 3 years. Serious. They live together. His family knows her. Her family knows him. The air between them changes. This story has known air changes before and will again, moments that alter the room without touching a single object, but this one is different. This is not charged. This is clarified. Like a lens adjusted until something slightly blurry comes into focus, and the focus reveals something more complicated than the blur. She is very still. She picks up her wine glass. She looks at the city below for a moment. Then she sets the glass down. She picks up her bag from the back of her chair. She does it without drama, without anger, even, which is somehow more devastating than anger would be. She simply has a new piece of information and she is deciding what to do with it, and what she is deciding is to leave. She leaves. He stands at the railing. He watches the city below. The city is still doing everything a city does at this hour, all of it lit and moving and entirely indifferent to the fact that he is standing up here on a rooftop with the specific weight of his own choices sitting squarely on his shoulders. He stays at the railing for a long time. Wind across the rooftop, distant traffic below, a far-off siren. Her kitchen that night. She does not turn the lights on when she comes home. She sets her bag down by the door. She sets her keys on the hook by the door. She walks into her kitchen in the dark and stands at the table and puts both hands flat on the surface of it. The table is cool. The kitchen smells of the candle she burned this morning, something citrus and warm, and of the mangoes she has in a bowl on the counter that are almost ripe. She is not crying. She is not angry precisely. She is something more specific. She is sitting with the precise texture of having done everything right and arrived somewhere painful anyway. She had a policy. She knew something was there, and she did not press it, and she was appropriate and careful, and she still ended up standing in a dark kitchen with both hands on a cool table having just walked away from a rooftop. She opens her journal. Her handwriting in it, when she is calm, runs in a consistent line, slightly uphill, the particular hand of someone who was taught to write carefully and has since made it her own. Tonight the handwriting is different, more pressure, the letters rounder and more insistent, the lines less regular. She writes. The words stay private. What matters is the physical act of writing, the pen pressing hard into the paper, her jaw slightly tight, the moment when she stops mid-sentence and holds the pen above the page without writing anything for almost 2 minutes. She is sitting with the full weight of two things, the wanting, which is real, and the rightness, which is also real, and the distance between them, which is uncomfortable and honest and hers to carry. When she finishes, she closes the journal. She puts the pen down. She sits in the quiet kitchen for a while longer. The mangoes on the counter are almost ripe. The night outside the window is still and warm. Then she gets up, fills a glass of water, and goes to bed. She is going to be okay. She knows this. Knowing it does not make tonight easier. Knowing it makes tomorrow possible. Sound cue. The sound of the pen on paper, then quiet, then a glass of water running. The breaking point. There is a particular kind of pain that comes from doing the right thing too slowly. From knowing what the truth is and choosing, day after day, to live slightly to the left of it, because the truth in full would require a courage you are still building. The days pile up. The distance between who you are and what you are doing widens by increments so small that each one seems forgivable, and then one morning you wake up and the distance is a canyon and you cannot remember exactly when it became one. This is not a story about villains. Every person in this story is trying. Some are trying to hold on. Some are trying to let go. Some are trying to figure out in the dark which of those two things they are even doing. Trying is not the same as succeeding. Trying is not the same as not causing harm. Hold both things at once. They agree to be friends. They agree, in a text exchange she initiates, to be friends. She types the word and sends it before she can revise it, and then she sets her phone face down on the kitchen counter and goes to refill her coffee and tells herself this is the sensible thing, the correct thing, the only thing that makes any sense given the full picture of the situation. She is not wrong. She is also not entirely right. But she is trying. He receives the message and sits with it for a moment. He types back, yes. He means it. He also knows, in the particular way that people know things they will not yet say aloud, that agreeing to be friends with someone you feel this way about is not a solution. It is a reclassification. The feeling does not change because the category did. Take a moment with the word friends. Turn it over. Examine its corners. Friends is a word that covers a great deal of territory, and two people can stand inside it and mean completely different things. Sometimes that is the point. Sometimes friends is the only word available that lets everyone stay in the room. Sometimes it is the right word. Sometimes it is a very small tent in a very large storm, and you know it and you are grateful for it anyway because the alternative is no shelter at all. They were trying. Do not dismiss the trying. Trying is real. Trying counts. What trying cannot always do is change the direction of a thing that has already been set in motion. Jae-Hwan draws at night. His studio. Past midnight. The kind of late that arrives only when you have been working or trying to work and have lost track of the hours entirely, when the city outside has quieted to its overnight register, occasional sirens, the diesel rumble of a truck. A conversation from the street below that rises and then fades. He is supposed to be working on his graphic novel, the 4th volume. His publisher is waiting with the kind of patient professional energy that is indistinguishable, at a certain distance, from impatience. He has the pages laid out. He has the reference sketches. He has a plot outline he wrote in February that made complete sense in February and now, looking at it, seems to describe a story being told by someone he no longer entirely is. He picks up his pencil. He puts it to paper. He draws. But the colony on the distant planet does not come. The characters he has been living with for 4 years do not come. What comes instead, and this is not the first time in the past 2 weeks, it is the 5th or the 6th, is her hands. Specifically her hands, the way they looked turning the pages of a sketchbook at the cafe, the careful, deliberate way she held something she sensed was fragile and wanted to handle with respect. He draws the hands from memory. He draws them twice. He draws the angle of the wrist. He draws the particular curl of fingers that are reaching for something they're not sure they should take. He looks at the page. He does not throw it away. He sets it to the right side of his desk. He has been setting these pages to the right side of his desk for 2 weeks now, face down, a small accumulating stack of things he has drawn without meaning to and cannot bring himself to discard. He goes back to the colony. He draws 3 lines of a building. He stops. He picks up his phone. He puts it down without opening it. He draws 3 more lines. Outside, Miami persists. The ocean somewhere to the east does not sleep either. Tonight, the ocean and Jae-Hwan have this in common. Both awake, both restless, both moving in the same direction without knowing what they are moving toward. Kerri-Ann teaches portraiture. Thursday afternoon. The light through the high windows of the Liberty Arts classroom comes in at a low angle and catches the dust motes drifting through the warm air so that the whole room seems alive in its own slow way, full of color and texture and the particular beauty of a space where children have been making things. The walls are a gallery. Drawings, paintings, collages, the accumulated visual evidence of every child who has sat at these tables and made something out of nothing, which is to say made something out of themselves. Her students today are 12 of them, ages 11 through 15. She moves through the room giving quiet, specific feedback. She stops at one table and says something about how eyes in a portrait have to be the most committed part of the drawing, because eyes are where people look first and where they decide whether a face is true. She is in her body completely here, in her work completely, fully in the room. Then she stops at the front of the class. She does this sometimes. She stops in the middle of a technical instruction and says something bigger, something that comes up from below the lesson like groundwater. She says, The hardest face to capture honestly is one you already know too well. Because you stop seeing the actual face. You start drawing the face you've decided is there. You draw the story you have about the person instead of the person. And the person on the page comes out looking like something they're not, and you don't know why until you look very closely and realize you weren't really looking at them at all. She stops. The class waits. She looks at the window for a moment, at the oblique rectangle of late afternoon light on the wall, and something moves across her face that her students cannot name because they are 11 through 15 and have not yet lived enough to recognize it. But they will remember it. 3 of them will remember it years later, will be standing in a museum or a classroom or a kitchen, and something will happen, and they will suddenly think of the afternoon their art teacher said the hardest face to capture is one you already know too well, and they will understand something they didn't understand at 11. She collects herself. She smiles. She says, "Okay, keep working, charcoal doesn't wait." She moves on through the room. She does not let them see what that sentence cost her to say. The soft scratch of charcoal on paper, the sound of the classroom settling back into its work. The almost call. Late Tuesday. Her apartment. The kind of quiet that settles over a city well past midnight, when even Miami has briefly lowered its voice. She is in bed. She picked up a book at 9 o'clock and has been reading the same page for 40 minutes. She knows this because she has been on this page for 40 minutes and nothing from it has registered in her mind, which is full of something else entirely. She picks up her phone, opens her contacts. His name. Her thumb rests on the screen above it, not pressing, just resting. She puts the phone down on the bed beside her. She picks up the book. She reads 3 sentences. She puts the book down. She picks up the phone. She opens his contact. She begins to type a message. She types 4 words. She deletes 3 of them. She types 2 more. She deletes those. She closes the app. She gets up, goes to the kitchen, drinks a glass of water, stands at the kitchen window looking down at the street, which is quiet now, a taxi moving slowly, a man walking a dog that is in no hurry, the amber gleam of the streetlights on the damp pavement from the evening's rain. She stands there for 5 minutes. She goes back to bed. She picks up the phone again, opens the contact, looks at his name. This is what she is arguing with herself about, not whether she wants to call him. She knows she wants to call him. She stopped pretending she doesn't know that some time ago. She is arguing about what it would mean if she did, not for her, but for the woman she has not met but knows exists, whose claim on this man is real and prior and not nothing, regardless of what Jae-Hwan may or may not be feeling. There is a woman in this equation who did not ask to be in this equation. And Kerri-Ann Clarke has enough moral imagination to feel the weight of another woman's position even when that weight is inconvenient. Especially then. She does not call. She puts the phone in her nightstand drawer. She turns off the light. She lies in the dark. The ceiling above her is visible in the ambient light of the city coming through her curtains, and she stares at it, and she does not call. She made the right choice tonight. The right choice, alone in the dark at 2 in the morning, without anyone watching, without anyone to give her credit for it, is still the right choice. It is just also the lonely one. The city at its quietest, a distant siren, then nothing, then just the low hum of everything. Min Jae lies awake. She does not sleep well anymore. She has not said so. She lies beside him in the dark. He is asleep, or she thinks he is asleep. She has started being uncertain about this in a way that is new and unpleasant, and the ceiling of their apartment is gray with the light of the city coming in around the curtains. A faint glow, enough to see the shapes of things. She is not a woman who dramatizes. She is precise. She is evidence-based. She does not arrive at conclusions without sufficient data, and she does not name things until she is sure of what she is naming. This is why she has said nothing. The data is suggestive but not conclusive. She respects the possibility of other explanations. But she is lying awake. And she has been lying awake on more nights than not for 3 weeks. She does not catalog her suspicions. Instead, she goes through her memories. The old ones. The good ones. She does this carefully, the way you go through something valuable to take inventory of what is still there. She thinks about the blue mug he has had since graduate school, chipped at the rim, stained inside with years of coffee, and the way he made her coffee in a different mug in their first year together because he knew she preferred mugs without chips. And the specificity of that attention, the fact that he knew and did something about it without being asked, is a thing she has held on to. She holds it now. It still feels like something real. She thinks about his laugh, not the polite one, the other one. The real one that comes from somewhere lower and less managed, that arrives only when he is genuinely caught off guard by something funny. She has always been able to get that laugh. She tests this memory gently, the way you test old ice. Does it still hold? She believes it does. She hopes it does. She thinks about his hand finding hers at his mother's dinner table in their early years. Suman's table, with its careful food and its careful silences and the particular pressure of being evaluated by a woman who loves her son with the force of a law of nature. In those early years, Jae-Hwan would find her hand under the table and hold it, just firmly enough, and that warmth in her palm was the whole conversation she needed in a room that was otherwise all performance. Give Min-jae the scene without apology. Her grief is not a footnote. Her love is not a mistake. She is a woman who built something real with someone real, and that deserves to be acknowledged before the story moves past her. She lies in the dark, and she does not sleep, and she does not say anything, and she does not investigate. She waits. She is good at waiting. She is less sure than she used to be that waiting will tell her what she needs to know. The city at night, the faint sound of distant water, a slight wind. The sketch is found. He forgets to turn the drawing face down. This is the detail on which everything pivots. She comes to his studio on a Saturday morning. She has been here before many times. It is not unusual. She comes with coffee and pastries from the Cuban place 2 blocks over. Because she is Min-jae, and she does things like that, she shows love in the language of small, consistent provisions. He lets her in and goes to rinse a cup for her, and she sets the bag down on the edge of his desk, and she sees the page. It is face up. She picks it up. She is not snooping. The page is lying in the open on a desk. She has sat at 100 times. She picks it up because it is facing her, and it is detailed and beautiful, and she responds to beautiful drawings the way anyone with eyes and a soul responds to them. She looks at it for a long moment. The eyes in the drawing are unmistakable. Not because she knows the face, she doesn't, not yet. Because of the way they are drawn, with the specific intensity of someone who has looked at this face very carefully, not once but many times, the way an artist draws something they are trying not to forget. There is love in the lines. The kind that cannot be faked and cannot be explained away. He comes back with the rinsed cup. He sees her face, then he sees what she is looking at, and in the space of a second he ages slightly, the way people do when the thing they have been carrying in secret is no longer a secret. He doesn't reach for the drawing. He doesn't apologize. He doesn't explain. He stands in the center of his studio and is, for the first time in months, completely present, stripped of the performance of normalcy, not pretending anything, not managing anything. Just standing there in the full exposure of being known. A kind of nakedness. Not of the body. Of the truth. She looks at him for a long time. Then she puts the coffee on the desk. She picks up her bag. She says his name once, just once, his full name, the way she says it only when she means to be heard. Then she walks out. The door closes with the specific quiet of someone who has enough dignity not to slam it. The sound of the door, then silence, then the city outside continuing its indifferent noise. S.O. Min's kitchen. Sumino has lived in the same house in Miami's Kendall neighborhood for 22 years. The kitchen is the center of the house, always has been, and it smells of doenjang and sesame and something sweet that seems baked into the walls from decades of use. The kitchen is immaculate. It is always immaculate. This is one of the languages Sumin speaks, the immaculate kitchen, the prepared table, the dish made from memory that takes 4 hours, and she doesn't mention the 4 hours. She has heard something, not a name, not a detail, but a feeling. And Sumino's feelings have an excellent track record. She has called her son to come. She has made food. They're sitting at the kitchen table and she is talking. She talks the way she always talks about the things that frighten her around them. She speaks of Min-jae's family, whom she respects. She speaks of the work that went into the relationship, the investment of time and care, and the trust of two families. She speaks of the future in the particular way of a woman for whom the future has always been something to construct deliberately, from good materials, with forethought. She is not menacing. She is not unkind. She is afraid of loss, afraid of disruption, afraid of the thing mothers of a certain generation are afraid of when they sense their children beginning to move away from the plan. The Korean mother love at this table has its own shape. It looks like expectation and it is terror. It looks like pressure and it is devotion. She has poured her whole life into this family, into this house, into the construction of a stability she did not always have, and the prospect of any part of it loosening is something she does not have words for. So she speaks instead of duty, of commitment, of the value of things that last. Jae-Hwan listens. He does not argue. He does not perform agreement either. He has learned not to give false comfort because it simply delays the conversation. He says very little. He eats what she has made because not eating what she has made would be a cruelty. He answers her questions without answering her real question, which neither of them puts into words. When he stands to leave, she watches him from the kitchen doorway. She knows her own son. She knows him better than he has ever been comfortable with, and what she sees in him today, the particular set of his shoulders, the way his eyes look at something she cannot find in the room, is enough to tell her that whatever she feared is already underway. She stays in the kitchen after he goes. Her hands are still for a moment at the counter. Sumino's hands are never still. That is what makes the moment matter. The front door closing, the kitchen settling into its quiet, the refrigerator hum. The confrontation. Min-jae does not go to the park looking for a confrontation. She goes to the park because it is Wednesday afternoon, and she goes to the park on Wednesday afternoons when the weather allows, and she is not going to reorganize her life around a suspicion that is not yet confirmed. But she sees her. She sees her from the path that runs along the north side of the park, a woman on a bench with a notebook open in her lap, head bent in concentration, a red pen moving across the page. Something in the posture, the angle, the way the light falls, something makes Min-jae stop walking. She stands on the path and looks. She does not know this face. And yet, she recognizes it with the specific recognition of a thing you have been afraid of for a long time and finally see plainly in front of you. She walks over. This takes more courage than anything she has done in some time. She walks over with her hands steady at her sides and her spine straight and the particular composure of a woman who has decided that dignity is the only thing she is in full control of today, and she is going to use it. Kerri-Ann looks up. She sees a woman standing in front of her, composed, beautiful, with eyes that are doing something very complex very quietly. Min-jae introduces herself. The name lands with the specific force of information arriving before you are ready for it. Kerri-Ann's pen goes still in her hand. What follows is not a scene of rage. It is not a scene of accusation. It is something harder and more lasting. Two women, honest with each other, in the specific terrible intimacy of a situation neither of them asked for. Min-jae asks one direct question, woman to woman, her eyes level and her voice steady. The question does not need to be quoted. Any listener already knows it. Kerri-Ann answers honestly. She does not perform innocence she cannot claim, but she tells the full truth of what the thing between her and Jae-Hwan has and has not been. The emotional line has been crossed, not the physical one. But they both know the emotional line is not the lesser one. The heart does not grade on that curve. Min-jae listens. She is entirely still, the kind of still that costs enormous effort to maintain. What moves across her face is not rage, not contempt. Grief. The specific grief of a person receiving confirmation of something they already knew. She says something quiet. It does not need to be quoted. It is gracious, more gracious than the situation requires, more gracious than any listener would have blamed her for failing to be. The graciousness costs her. She pays it anyway, because this is who Min-jae is. Min-jae walks away. She turns and walks across the park. Stay with her. Give her the full weight of the camera, the full attention of the story. She does not get to be invisible in her pain. Her story is not a subplot. Her grief is not a narrative device. She is a woman who loves someone genuinely and well for real years, and what she is walking away from is not an abstraction. Her back is straight. Her pace is even. Her hands shake at her sides. She walks past a child on a swing, pushed by a grandfather counting in a low, steady voice. 1, 2, 3. She walks past a dog on a long leash investigating a tree with tremendous focus. Past a woman reading on a blanket with her shoes off and her face turned to the sky. Past a teenager with earbuds in, moving to something private. The ordinary world goes about its ordinary Wednesday afternoon, indifferent, continuing, asking nothing of her. At the far edge of the park, she sits on a bench that is partly in shadow. She sits very still for a moment. Then she takes her phone from her bag. She holds it in both hands. She does not call anyone. She sits with it held in both hands like something she needs to anchor her. Do not rush this. Sit with Min-jae on this bench for as long as is needed. Some exits in a story deserve a camera that does not blink. After a while, it is not a short while, she puts the phone back in her bag. She stands. She squares her shoulders. She walks out of the park the way she walked in, straight-backed, even-paced, every surface composed. Inside the composition, everything is broken. Then she is gone, fully gone, allowed the dignity of being seen all the way out of frame. The park sounds receding, the child, the dog, the ambient warm afternoon, until there is just the sound of her footsteps on the path, and then those two are gone. The phone call. Kerri-Ann is still sitting on the bench when she calls him. Her notebook is closed in her lap. The red pen is in her hand, uncapped, though she is not writing anything. She tells him what happened, not in anger, but in the flat-level voice of someone who has moved past the option of performing emotions and is now simply conveying facts. Min-jae came to the park. Min-jae introduced herself. Min-jae asked a question and Kerri-Ann answered it honestly. Kerri-Ann is not sorry for telling the truth. She would not be made into someone who lies to protect the comfort of a situation she did not create. She says what she needs to say to him. Not every word needs to be heard. The shape of it is enough. Whatever he decides is his decision to make, but he needs to make it. She will not be an interruption in someone else's story. The woman who just walked across that park holding her hands still deserved better than the months that led to this afternoon, and so does Kerri-Ann, and so, frankly, does he. She says it without cruelty. She says it because it is true and because she believes that truth, plainly spoken without malice, is the most respectful thing you can offer a person. She hangs up. She sits in the park a little longer. The afternoon has shifted, the light lower now, the shadows longer, the heat beginning its slow retreat. She opens her notebook. She tries to write something. She closes it again. She goes home. What love asks of us. 3 weeks pass. The time is marked not by dates, but by its quality, quieter than what came before. Slower. As though the story, having arrived at its most complicated point, needed space. Kerri-Ann teaches. She runs on the beach in the early mornings before the heat arrives, the sand still firm from the night, the Atlantic gray and enormous at her side. She visits her mother. She calls Simone and talks for too long and then feels better, as she always does. She does not call Jae-Hwan. The absence of him is a presence she has learned to move around, the way you move around furniture in a dark room, carefully, without looking directly at it. Jae-Hwan does what he said he would do. He does it with the grief and the care it deserves, and it is not a small thing. Plainly, he did the right thing. Doing the right thing does not always feel like relief. Sometimes it feels like loss, precisely like loss, and the loss is real, and being right does not cancel the ache of it. The empty apartment. His apartment, now. The geometry of it has changed. Min-jae's things are gone. Not everything. They were not fully living together. She had a key and a presence and a drawer and a section of the bathroom shelf and certain evenings and most Sundays. But the key is returned. The drawer is empty. The section of the bathroom shelf has a particular absence that is more visible than anything that remains. He sits in the apartment on a Sunday afternoon and he looks at it. The art on the walls that he chose. The books on the shelves that he chose. The view of the bay that is now entirely his again to look at alone. It is a beautiful apartment. It is very quiet. Do not sentimentalize this scene in either direction. It is not asking anyone to feel he made the wrong choice, and it is not asking anyone to feel the loss of Min-jae is nothing. Sit with both, the rightness of what he did and the real weight of what it cost. These things coexist. Grief and correctness are not mutually exclusive. He knew this before he made the choice. He made it anyway. That is what choosing honestly requires. He made coffee in the blue mug. He drank it looking out at the bay. The bay was, as always, entirely indifferent and entirely beautiful. He did not call Kerri-Ann. Not yet. He understood that some things need their own time. That arriving at someone with your grief still warm in your hands is not a gift. So he sat with it. And he let it be what it was. He comes to the classroom. She had invited him weeks ago, before any of it, before the park, before everything, in one of their easy conversations over coffee. She sometimes brought in working artists to speak to her students about what a creative career actually looks like. He had said yes. She had not rescinded the invitation because it was about her students, not her feelings, and her students come first. This she does not waver on. He stands at the door of the classroom at 3:15 on a Thursday. Her students are still in session. She is walking the room with the specific focus of a teacher who is fully in her work, and he watches from the doorway for a moment before she sees him. He sees a woman completely at home in herself. She moves through a room full of young people with authority that is not intimidating but magnetic. They turn toward her the way plants turn toward light, naturally, without being told. She stops at a table and says something to a girl whose drawing is not working, and the girl's face changes, relaxes, attempts something new, tries again. She is teaching. Not technique only. She is teaching people how to trust what they see. He watches her, and something clarifies in him. Not the feeling was never unclear. Something else. He recognizes someone entirely, completely herself. Someone who does not need to construct herself for the room she is in. Someone whose certainty about her own work and her own worth is not arrogance, but the quiet confidence of a woman who has earned her place and knows it. He has not seen anything so certain before. Not in himself. Not in a long time. She sees him at the door. Their eyes meet across the room. Neither of them smiles immediately. There is too much between them for a simple smile. Too much history in the past weeks. But the look they exchange lasts exactly long enough to communicate. We are still here. Both of us. Still here. Then she turns back to her students and says, "We have a guest today." The students, the quiet classroom sounds, the particular energy of young people about to pay attention. Donna's table. Kerri-Ann tells her mother everything. Not in pieces, not edited, the whole thing, from the beginning, from the bar on a Friday night in July to the park bench 3 weeks ago. She sits at her mother's kitchen table with a cup of tea going cold in front of her, and she tells it all. Donna Clarke's kitchen smells of thyme and Scotch bonnet and always something sweet. Tonight it is the sweet potato pudding cooling on the counter, a recipe from Donna's mother and her mother's mother, carried from Jamaica to Florida decades ago and never once adjusted. Because some things are perfect and don't need improving. The kitchen is warm. The evening light comes in at the angle it always does at this hour, catching the steam from the pot Donna has left on the back burner, and the whole room has the quality of a place where things are taken seriously and love is a verb. Donna listens. This is her particular genius. She listens the way very few people listen, not waiting for her turn, not composing her response, not managing her reaction. She simply receives what her daughter is saying, fully, without resistance, the way the ocean receives what the rivers bring. When Kerri-Ann finishes, the kitchen is quiet for a moment. The pudding cools. The pot on the back burner murmurs. Then Donna reaches across the table and covers her daughter's hand with both of hers. Her hands are warm and certain, the hands of a woman who has been working with them her whole life, the same hands that used to hold Kerri-Ann's when she was small and afraid and the world seemed very large. Those same hands. Still warm. Still certain. She doesn't deliver a verdict. She doesn't say he was wrong or you were wrong or this is what you should do. She says, in her own way, that love that makes you feel seen is not a small thing. That the question is always what you do with it. That she raised her daughter to be honest and kind, and she has seen both of those things in everything her daughter just told her. Then she gets up and cuts 2 slices of sweet potato pudding, brings them to the table, and says, "Eat." That is how Donna Clarke gives counsel. That is how she loves. Not with conclusions, but with presence and pudding and warm certain hands. Min Jae-Hwan's new room. Boxes. A bare floor. A window with afternoon light coming through it that she has not yet decided what to do with. No curtains yet, no plants. The window just a window, just the light. She sits against the wall of the new apartment, hers alone, in a building 12 blocks from the one they shared, and she has reached the limit of what she can do today without stopping. She was always the one who could keep going. She is learning that even she has limits. She cries. Not prettily, honestly. She cries with her whole body, the way people cry when they have been holding the weight of something for a long time and can finally set it down, even if setting it down hurts. She cries for the blue mug and the Sunday mornings and the hand under the dinner table and the version of the future she had been carefully building and will not now inhabit. She cries for the love that was real, even if it wasn't enough. She cries for herself, which is not self-pity. It is basic and necessary self-recognition. The acknowledgement that she was here. That she mattered. That this happened to a real person. When it passes, she sits in the quiet. The new room. The bare floor. The window full of afternoon. The quiet is not empty. The quiet is hers. It has her shape. It is the first quiet in some time that has not also contained the unease of something unspoken. She sits inside it. She looks at the window. She thinks, without quite deciding to think it, I am going to be okay. She does not perform the certainty. She does not feel it fully yet. But it arrived in the room, the way a season arrives, not all at once, just a change in the quality of the light. She gets up. She opens another box. The sound of tape being pulled from a box, the small ordinary sounds of a life beginning to arrange itself in a new place. Omin and Yuna. A week later. Sumin calls Yuna, not Jae-Hwan. Yuna. Yuna O is 30 years old and has been mediating between her mother and her brother for approximately 28 of those years. She is not resentful of this. She took it on willingly, because she understood early that love in a complicated family requires a translator, and she had the gift for it. She answers the phone knowing this will require all of her. Her mother asks what she thinks of the woman. Not her name. Her mother does not yet know her name, has not asked for it, as though asking would make it too real. Just, what does she think of the woman? Yuna is quiet for a moment. She tells her mother what she thinks, carefully, that she has not met the woman, but that she has seen her effect on Jae-Hwan. That he is present in a way he has not been in some time. That the light is back in him, the specific light their mother has been missing from him for 2 years and has not said so, but Yuna has noticed, and she knows their mother has noticed too. Sumin is quiet for a long time. Then she says the sentence, everything will turn on. She says to Yuna, invite her to something small. Not the family dinner. Something small. Something with just you. Yuna says, okay, Amma. Sumin hangs up. She stands in her immaculate kitchen. This is the moment a woman decides something she will not announce, something she has to do in private, because to name it aloud would be to admit more than she is ready to admit. She decided. Without a meeting or a ceremony or a revelation. She simply decided, quietly, in her own kitchen, where every important thing in her life has been decided. And then she started the broth for the next meal. The choice made. And then, the ordinary miracle of after. Nobody tells you about this part. The part after the storm, when the landscape has been rearranged and you have to relearn the geography. The part where love stops being a feeling you fall into and becomes a choice you make, repeatedly, quietly, in small, unremarkable moments, without fanfare. This is the part that matters most. Morning birds, early traffic, the city stretching into another warm Miami day. The rooftop. Night. The same rooftop bar where everything came apart. She did not propose this location. He did. She is there when he arrives. She is standing at the railing with a glass of sparkling water, looking out at the city. Miami below them in its full night splendor, the buildings lit, the bay glittering in the distance, a cargo ship moving slowly along the horizon, the causeways bright and busy. The whole gorgeous, illuminated, improbable city spread out in every direction below them like a promise someone actually kept. He comes and stands beside her at the railing. Not too close. Exactly close enough. For a while, they say nothing. The city does the talking the way cities will. Let this silence exist at full length. It is not awkward. It is not uncertain. It is the silence of two people who have been through something real and have arrived here tonight knowing what they came to say and willing to take their time saying it. Then she speaks first. She does not dress it up. She tells him what she needs, in the plain, specific language of a woman who has thought about this carefully and decided that she is worth clear words. She needs presence. Real presence, not the half presence of someone still managing the gap between where they are and where they've agreed to be. She needs honesty, the ongoing kind, not the kind that only arrives when it can no longer be avoided. She needs to be chosen, not defaulted to. She has learned the difference. She needs him to know she has learned the difference. She looks at him while she says this. Not away at him. He listens. He does not flinch, does not deflect, does not manage his response. He simply listens and lets what she is saying arrive in full. This is what is different now, the full arrival of him in this moment, without the glass wall. Then he speaks. Not as a speech, not as a performance of certainty he doesn't feel. He says, I'm here. 2 words. Said once, quietly. And then something in her face changes when she believes him, something that has been held very tightly releases. Not all at once. Slowly, the way tension releases, with a long slow motion that leaves the body genuinely lighter. She looks at him. He looks at her. Miami sustains itself below them, glittering and indifferent and entirely beautiful. Wind across the rooftop, the distant sound of music from the street below the city. The kiss. This moment deserves care. Not triumph. Not conclusion. A landing. The specific sensation of two people who have been falling toward each other, through everything that has happened, through all the weight and the wrong timing and the cost of it, and who have finally, gently, reached the ground. It is not dramatic. It is quieter than that. More real than that. His hand at her face. Her hand at his chest. The warm Miami night pressing close around them. The specific warmth of another person's face when they are this near. This is not a beginning. Everything before this, every scene, every conversation, every almost, and every not yet, and every cost was the beginning. This is the arrival at the thing all of that was building toward. This is the release after a very long silence. She pulls back slightly, looks at him. He looks at her. There is no uncertainty in it. Not the absence of fear, the presence of something stronger. The choice made, eyes open, knowing what it cost and making it anyway. The city glitters below them. The half moon from Act 1 is full now. These things take time. Music rising very gently from the street below, warm, full, and quietly joyful. A Tuesday morning. Now a Tuesday morning. Because Tuesdays are where love actually lives. Not the rooftop. Not the first look across a bar. Not the dance. Those are the punctuation marks. The Tuesday morning is the sentence itself. His apartment. Early. The Miami sky outside the window is doing what the Miami sky does at 6 in the morning in October, going from a dark rose to a pale gold in the specific patient, unhurried way of a sky that has done this every day for a very long time and is not in a rush. The overhead light is off. The kitchen lamp is on. Coffee is made. She is at the kitchen table with her student files spread across it, a red pen in her hand, her glasses on, the ones she doesn't wear in public, with the slightly tortoiseshell frames she chose because she liked them and not because anyone else would. Her hair is not arranged. She is not performing anything. She is simply there at the table, in his kitchen, in the early morning, doing her work. He slides a mug toward her across the table without saying anything. She picks it up without looking up from the papers. Takes a sip. Sets it down. Goes back to her red pen. He sits across from her with his own coffee and his sketchbook, and the morning moves around them both the way mornings move around people who have decided to share them quietly, warmly, with the specific grace of two lives that have found a way to occupy the same space without diminishing either one. This is it. Not quietly, but with full conviction. This is it. This Tuesday morning. This coffee and these papers and this light and this absence of performance. This is the thing every earlier scene was earning. This is what choosing someone looks like, past the choosing. This is love in its working clothes. Scene 45, Yuna and Kerri-Ann. They meet for lunch in Wynwood, Yuna's invitation, presented as casual, the way these things always are. A man's sister and the woman he loves sit across from each other for the first time, and the dynamic is careful, evaluation without hostility, warmth with precision. The particular intimacy of two people who love the same person in different capacities and are taking each other's measure. Yuna is warm. She is also precise. She asks questions that are not interrogation, but that gather information efficiently. Kerri-Ann meets her where she is. She does not perform ease. She simply is at ease, which is a different thing, and Yuna notices the difference. At the end of the lunch, Yuna says it gently. She can see why. She is glad. For a while, a couple of years, if Kerri-Ann wants to know, she worried about her brother in a specific way she didn't have words for. The worry of watching someone you love disappear inside their own life without knowing they were going. And now she can see that he is coming back. She doesn't make a ceremony of it. She says it and picks up her coffee cup and changes the subject with the specific grace of someone who has said the thing and doesn't need to be thanked for saying it. Kerri-Ann drives home afterward with the windows down, the Miami air coming through the car, warm and salt-edged and alive, and she lets it. The beach at dawn. October in Miami. The beach at 6:30 in the morning, before the families and the tourists, before the full heat arrives. The ocean at this hour is gray-green and calm with a low swell, and the sky is pink and gold at the horizon where the sun is coming up and the sand is cool and firm underfoot. They walk. Barefoot, both of them, shoes in their outside hands, their inside hands found of their own accord. The waves come in and go, in the patient rhythm that has nothing to do with anything happening on shore, a rhythm that has been here before every building in the city and will be here after. And walking beside it puts things in proportion in a way that is useful and necessary. Take the scene slowly. The specific colors of the sky as the light builds, rose becoming amber, becoming the pale gold of actual morning. The gulls beginning. The cold wet sand at the waterline when the wave retreats. The smell of the ocean in October, different from July, less humid, cleaner, the sea giving up its summer heat. The man fishing far down the beach, standing absolutely still. The city behind them, not yet fully awake. They are small against all of this. Very small against all of this, and happy about that. There is a specific relief in being reminded of your smallness. It redistributes the weight of things. She slips her hand more firmly into his. He looks down at their joined hands. He looks up at the horizon, where the sun is arriving now without fanfare, simply appearing, the way inevitable things do. The ocean. Seabirds. The world waking. MINJEA Grace note. 3 months later. A yoga studio in Coconut Grove that Minjae found 3 weeks after moving into the new apartment. It smells of sandalwood and clean wood floors and slightly of the rain that came through this morning. She is rolling her mat after class. The instructor says something to her on the way out, a specific compliment about her practice, and she receives it the way she has been practicing receiving things, without deflecting, without minimizing. She says thank you and means it. In the doorway, she stops. The morning outside is overcast and warm, a soft day, the light diffuse and gentle. She takes in the damp outside air. Someone holds the door for her. She looks up. A man a little older than her, a kind face, a yoga mat under his arm, the particular slight awkwardness of someone who is also new to this and has just done something instinctively polite. She meets his eyes. He smiles. Do not build this into anything. This is only a moment. A man holding a door, a woman looking up, a smile exchanged on a soft Tuesday morning. It is evidence of something simple and true. She is going to be okay. Life, in the way of all living things, keeps generating mornings, keeps offering them, keeps holding the door open. She walks out into the warm October air, her mat under her arm, her face turned slightly toward the sky. Let her go with full respect, with real affection. She carried this story in her too. She carried it well. The city sounds of a weekday morning, traffic, birdsong, a radio from a nearby window. The graphic novel cover. He shows her the cover on a Wednesday evening in November on the couch in her apartment, with the television on something neither of them is watching and the remains of dinner still on the coffee table and the rain coming down outside. Fat warm drops that hit the window and run, as it occasionally does in Miami in November. He opens his laptop, turns it toward her. The cover of the 4th volume, 2 hands reaching across a dark background toward each other, not quite touching, the fingers almost but not quite overlapping, the space between them illuminated, not by anything logical, just by the painting. Because some things are simply lit by what they mean. Below the image, the title. She reads it and then looks at him over the screen. He is watching her read it. She says nothing for a moment. Then she laughs soft, genuine, the real laugh, not the public one. The laugh she keeps for things that are exactly right. She closes the laptop gently and sets it on the table. He says nothing. She says nothing. The rain continues on the window. She reaches over and takes his hand. He looks at it. He looks at her. Some stories end without a declaration. They simply arrive at a place where declarations are no longer required, where the thing is known by everyone present, where the hands know what the mouths don't need to say. This is one of those places. The rain, the television low in the background, the warm inside sounds of an evening at home. What Kerri-Ann would tell her. If she could go back. If she could stand on the sidewalk outside Rhythm and Soul on that Friday night in July and find the version of herself stepping out of Marcus's car, the one in the red dress with her hair loose and her agenda nothing more than to feel free. If she could go back to her and say something. She wouldn't warn her. She would not say, don't go in, don't dance, don't follow him to the alley. She would not say, the man at the bar has a name on his phone, and it will complicate everything, and the complication will cost people something real. She would not say this, because it is true that it costs something, and also true that the cost was paid by real people who survived it, and in some cases are better for the surviving. She would not erase that. She would say something else. She would say, you are going to feel something tonight that you will spend a very long time trying to find a smaller word for. Don't. Use the real word, even if it's too big for the moment. The moment can hold it. You are stronger than you are about to think you are, and so is everyone else in this story, even the ones you haven't met yet. She would say, the woman whose name you are going to see on a phone screen on a rooftop is not your enemy. She is a person. Hold that. It costs you nothing to hold it, and it is the difference between who you are and who you refuse to become. She would say, your mother's kitchen is always going to be there. That is not a small thing. That is the whole thing. She would say, the drawing on his desk is you. It has always been you. He was looking for you before he knew he was looking, the way people look for things they don't know they've lost, in all the wrong places, and then suddenly in exactly the right one. She would say, it gets quiet later, on the other side of all of it. A good quiet. The kind that has your shape. And you will stand in that quiet on a Tuesday morning in your own kitchen and hear coffee being made and feel, not happy exactly, not like a lyric from a song, you will feel arrived. You will feel that you are where you are supposed to be. That all the roads that were complicated led here anyway, to this ordinary Tuesday, to this coffee, to these hands. Linger on that word. Arrived. Not the fireworks. Not the rooftop. Not the kiss or the dance or the first look across a bar in July. The Tuesday morning. The arrived. That is love's true name. Not the falling. The landing. Closing voiceover. The camera rises. Slowly, the way a sigh rises, gathering itself, expanding, releasing. It rises above the apartment building on a Tuesday morning in November. Above the street with its traffic and its palms. Above Biscayne Boulevard where the lights still burn amber against the morning. Above the bay where a boat moves slowly across the flat gray water. Above the city itself, which continues in all directions as far as the eye carries, this city built on water and possibility and the arrival of people who came from somewhere else to become something that could only be made here. The last words arrive slowly, one sentence, one truth held gently in both hands and released. Love is not the feeling. Love is the choice made again every morning with open eyes. And then softer, like a whisper behind the music. For everyone who has ever chosen something true, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. Music rising, beginning as the dance hall bass that opened this story, then slowly transforming into something orchestral and warm and full, as though the whole city has become the instrument, as though Miami itself has decided to sing.